Greetings everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on menu bar basics. This is the last tutorial in the first section of our QuickBooks Desktop 2016 Features, Functionality, and Fundamentals course. Man, that's a mouthful. Hi, I'm Kathy Grosskirth. I'm an Studemy author. I'm a QuickBooks ProAdvisor for desktop and online at the advanced level. Hope you enjoy this tutorial, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we are again open in our QuickBooks program. We are using again the sample rock castle construction file so that you can see all the various things that are involved with that. And we're going to go ahead and start first with this top bar. This is our main bar, which basically shows you the name of the company, the version of the software that we're using, and where we're located in our file. As you can see, it says home, so we are in the home page right now. So let's go ahead and get started with the menu bar. The menu bar is located right underneath that main bar. And as you can see, we have various items that are grouped according to function. And we're not going to go into any of these in depth because we are going to talk about some of these areas in particular when we go into our deep dives in our next few series. We're going to start with the file menu item first. As you can see, there's various things in the file menu that you can do. One of the really important things that you can do in this file area is to access the utilities. There's several sub-menu things that you can do. One of the important things is if you are using bank feeds, you can actually import Web Connect files this way. In other words, you don't have to download those from your bank into your files, and with certain banking organizations, they don't have it set up within QuickBooks that you can do that. So you have to actually import those. You have to actually grab those from your bank, download them onto your computer, and then import them into your file. And there's other things that you can import, such as Excel files, IIF files, which are things that you can import lists if you want to create a QuickBooks file and not have to retype all the different lists and everything. The other thing you can do is you can use this send company file if you want to create accountant's copy or a portable company file to your accountant so that he or she can do your taxes. And there are a few other things here. In the accountant's version, you can actually toggle to another edition. So if you wanted to work within the contractor edition, you can actually do that. Or there's other editions that you can actually work into, but we're not going to do that right now. So anyway, these are basically the items that you can do within the file menu. You can open up a new company. You can open and restore a company. Backing up, this is where you would also back up your files. You can create a local backup. You can restore a previous backup, and there's a list there of various previous backups that you can restore. You can also create copies. And this is where you can actually close your company without closing out the QuickBooks file if you want to go back to that main screen. So basically, oops. These are all the functions within the file menu. You can also exit QuickBooks out of here. So let's move on to the next thing, edit. Now the real important thing in edit is this is where you can actually set up all your company preferences. And we're going to have a deep dive module or tutorial just to focus on these things. You can actually go in here and set up your preferences for your accounting, your bills, your desktop view, all these different things, your items and inventory, your jobs and estimates, all these different things you can do, your sales and customers, your sales tax, and we're going to do a deep dive on all of this. So this is where you would go in here and set up your mapping for your 1099s. You can do that here. So that is accessible from the edit menu. The other thing you can do from your edit menu is you can go in here and click on this find feature, and you can either use a simple find. You can find transaction types by invoice, estimates, sales receipts, or you can actually just enter the amount after you choose. If you want to look for a check and say the amount is like $50, click on find, and anything that is within that amount you should find. And we didn't find anything there, but you can just, if you have a certain amount that you want to find, here we go, we have a Federal Treasury check that pops up, and then you can just double click on that and you can look at that in detail. So the find feature is very helpful. We may do a separate tutorial on that. You can also do some advanced sorting out as well. So you can filter by any of these categories here, and I kind of went through that pretty quickly. And then you can also remove some of these choices for the advanced level. But we'll probably, I think it would be helpful to do a deep dive on that at some point. So now let's go to view. This is where we set up where our left icon bar is showing up over here. You can also turn on the top icon bar. I find it a little busy to do that. And in this case, it's not really set up really well. So let's go back to our left icon bar. And then you can also go under here and you can automatically open the open windows list from here. And you don't really have to do that because you can do that from there. So let's go back to my shortcuts and have that showing again. But that's just some of the things you can do in the view menu. In lists, this is where you're going to access your chart of accounts, your items list, all these different lists that you would need to make sure that you're capturing everything, to make sure everything is input into your file correctly, to make sure it's classifying everything the way it should be on your sales reports and your P&Ls and balance sheets and stuff. So all these things we're going to work with at some point. The most important thing is going to be the items list and the chart of accounts. I just clicked on the items list, and again we'll do some deep dives, and it's really important to get the items list set up correctly if you want everything to work really well. As well as our chart of accounts, you have to make sure that those are set up correctly. And these are pretty much grouped in accordance to assets being listed first, liabilities, your equity, income, your cost of goods sold, and then your expenses. And then you have your other income, other expenses, and a few non-posting things. Well, we'll do a deep dive on that. So those are accessed from our list area. Now we go on to favorites. Now we don't have anything customized as favorites, but if you wanted to, you could do that here. You can add those things, you can move up and down, you can remove those things. And then that way, say like if you wanted your chart of accounts to be in your items list to be accessible, you can choose one of these and add them over here in your items list. You can do the same thing and add that over there. So just click on OK, and then now when you go up here, you'll see that those are on our favorites listing. And then you can add and remove those as you need to. So that's another way to access things that you use all the time if you're not comfortable using the home screen. Well, you'll find out there's several different ways to do the same thing. You just got to pick out which one is best for you. Now, with the accountants version of the software that we're using, we have our own special area. You have the Accountant Center, which you can get into, and it will also provide you with some various tools that you can use to run your business, your practice, while in the files that you're working with. So we'll probably do a separate tutorial on that at some point. Going back to the accountant menu, we can also batch enter transactions, which is very cool. You can enter checks, you can enter deposits, you can enter, and what I like to do is enter credit card charges and credits using this. If you don't have the feeds enabled in your file for this, this is a quick and easy way to do that. You just have to choose which credit card account you're wanting to do, enter all the pertinent information, save transactions in bulk, and then that's just a really cool thing. Back to the accountants thing. This is where you can make and send general journal entries. You can also access the client data review section here, which if you're doing any client reviews, this is where you would go ahead and set that up to start a review on a file. And if you didn't want to open up the client data review, there's some other things that you can do here, such as reclassify transactions. That's real important for the accountants. And you can actually view by either expense accounts, profit and loss accounts, or balance sheet accounts. So let's say we want to look at our profit and loss accounts, and we have certain things that we want to look at. Say that we want to look at subtractor income. And once you click on that, you want to click on Show All. And there you go. You have to make sure that you start with checking all, and then you can narrow it down if you need to. So all these are item based for the most part, probably. So anyway, you can look at any of these to see if any of these need to be moved. And if they need to be moved, you just click on the check marks here to move those things. And then you go down here and you select the account to do. We'll work on this a little bit later. But anyway, that is a very handy tool if we need to do a bunch of batch reclass at one time. You can also access the reconcile feature here. So all of this stuff you'll be able to we'll be able to do the deep dives. You can also access your ProAdvisor program credentials here. So let's go into the company menu next. We've got our home page. If you need to put that forward, you can access it from here. And then here is My Company. This is where you can go in and update or put in the information on your company as far as what type of organization it is, your EIN, income tax form that's mapped to, and all this other stuff. And you can also order different supplies and things like that in here. And then you can also manage your account from here. So that would be where you would go to update anything on your company and your contact information or anything like that. I'm going to maximize that again. Some other things you can do with this. This is where you go in and set up your users and passwords. And this is real important so that your company can set up, or your client can set up the external accounting credentials for you, because you will need those if you're working offsite in a company file so that you can access these wonderful accountant tools, because you can unlock the accountant's toolbox in the newest versions of QuickBooks so that you can have access to the same tools on their machine as you have in your program. So, and there's other things you can do real quick here is to set the closing date, and that's real important once you get all your taxes done and everything done to close out the fiscal year, so those things cannot be easily changed, and also set a password so that way they can't make any changes in prior year's information unless they have the password. So, and then there's several other things you can do. You can do some planning and budgeting. You can also make general journal entries. This is where you also would access the general journal and make those changes. So, and I believe that's basically it. There's a few other things you can do. You can, if you have multi-currency turned on, you can manage that. Enter vehicle mileage and a few other things. So let's go to the Customer Center, and you can access the Customer Center from here just like you can on the home page. And we talked about this in the last module briefly. So, and we'll do a deep dive on that a little bit later. Some other things you can do. You can also do various tasks surrounding your customers, such as create estimates, sales orders. Now, these features are turned on through our preferences that you saw in the edit menu. You can create invoices. You can create invoices in batch, enter sales receipts, all these different things. You can turn on your income tracker. There's also a few other things that you can do. You can also access the item list here and a few other things. So let's go to the vendor center real quick. Basically same thing. These are folks that you owe money to. You can turn on the bill tracker, and we'll click on that real quick so you can see what that looks like. This is very helpful because you can see that you have 10 purchase orders, you have 33 open bills. None of them are overdue, but you can see all the ones that are open. And you can click on and drill down on any of those areas to look at it further. Maximize that again. Vendor Center, this is where you would also manage your sales tax and all of that stuff. Create purchase orders, receive items and enter bills. Any inventory activities, you can get to the inventory center from here. This is where you would manage and print your 1099s if you do that, if you don't outsource that. So all the things you have to do, you have to actually set up and map those things in the preferences center that we talk about. And then you can also access the items list from there. The employee center, if you have it turned on, you can enter time. Again, this is not necessarily employee exclusive. If you're billing customers and jobs for various time that you are inputting into something, then you can bill that time to a client or customer. Then also you can use these links to pay employees, schedule payroll. Then we have after the fact payroll stuff here, and just anything to do with the employee center and paying your people. Payroll setup. If you don't have your payroll service turned on, you can activate all of that through these links here. You can set up your workers' compensation here. You can also process your payroll forms at the end of the year. And you can also get payroll updates to update all the percentages and everything that you need to make sure everything is computed correctly if you're doing payroll in-house. So that's the employee center. The banking center, we have where we can write checks. We can also order checks and envelopes. If you do those through Intuit, you can do those through your QuickBooks file. Makes it easy. You can enter credit card charges like we showed in the last module. You can either enter the charges or any refunds or credits just by clicking either button. You can make deposits and you can transfer funds. So if you're doing a lateral move from one account to another, say like you're paying off a credit card bill, you want to transfer funds from your checking to, say, this credit card down here, this QuickBooks credit card. You type in the amount and do funds transfer, save and close, and that will move those monies. And that's a lateral transfer. And we're not going to record that right now. I just wanted you to see that you could do that. You can also access the reconciliation screen from here. And this is where you can set up your bank feeds and work with all your bank feeds and stuff like that. You can also import your Web Connect files from here as opposed to doing it through the file menu, just whatever you might have. And depending on which version of QuickBooks you're using, if you're using the Premier or above, including the Accountants version, you have access to the Loan Manager. So if you have any loans, you can manage those through here. And then this is the Other Names list, which if they're not an employee or a vendor or anything else, then you can manage that list here. A lot of times we'll use that to put our owners on there. So that's it for the banking menu item. Reports. We have our report center, which we showed you early on, and you can access through the left icon bar. And we went over all those features in depth in an earlier tutorial. This is if we have any memorized reports, we can access those. And these are grouped by specific areas. If you have any reports that you have saved comments on, you would find those here. We don't have any of those, and when we get into reports, we'll talk about those. And then the 2 favorites reports that we have saved as favorites are on here now. And then you can get back to that company snapshot that we did earlier. You can also process multiple reports, which we'll get into when we do the more in-depth dive. And then you can access reports by functional area, and as you can see, we have all sorts of reports. And if you're using items, which you should be using if you're invoicing and billing, you can run sales by item summary, detail, and those will give you some good insights. Jobs, times, and mileage. You can, if you're using job costing, these are the reports you would use for that. Vendors and payables. If you want to see how much you owe, you can run a summary or a detail. Aging report. Purchases, inventory, employees and payroll. You've got all these reports. You've got all of these banking things that you can look at. Missing checks is a really good one. So if you have any missing check numbers, you need to see what those are. You shouldn't have any missing check numbers. Even if you voided them out, you should include them with a 0 amount. Accounting and taxes, everything you have to do with that. Voided, deleted transactions summary or audit trail. You need to actually look at that probably every day, just so you can make sure everything, especially if the client is doing the bookkeeping off-site, you need to make sure you check that to see if things are looking good. You have all the different lists that we work with, including our item price list, our item listing, all these different things you can access through here. And what's wonderful about the accountant's version of QuickBooks is that you have access to industry-specific reports, such as the contractor's report, manufacturing and wholesale, professional services, retails, and nonprofits. So even though you can actually toggle to a specific industry, you still have those industry-specific reports if you're using the accounting desktop version. And these are a gateway to our contributed reports, which is basically the same listing that we saw in our report center earlier. And then these are any custom reports that you can either have help in choosing or have saved, and a few other things. And we've already discussed our Windows screen here, our Windows menu here. We got to see how to tile vertically and horizontally in Cascade. We'll do that again just so you can see. All right. So that is our Cascade vertically, horizontally. And then let's Cascade. And as you can see, if we click on the Open Windows screen, the home screen, which is the one that's on top, shows first. And then here's our Help menu. You can access QuickBooks Help from here. And there's basically 3 areas in Help. You have Answers and Help, where you can click on these hot links to get started. If you also wanted to look and see what the answers were from Community. And then you also have the search bar. Say that you wanted to know how to set up 1099s. So I'm just going to type set up 1099 and then click on the search icon. And then as you can see, everything that relates to what we're looking for pops up in here. So you would investigate these links to find your answer. And then you can also click to see what the community has in regards to 1099s. And you can click on those and that'll open up a web browser for you. You can also click on Ask Intuit, and there's other things that you can do. You can find training and support, find a local QuickBooks expert, send feedback online, internet connection setup, and just various things that you can do to seek help. They want to try to make it as easy for you as possible, and there's also all sorts of forums out there that you can access any assistance through, including Abo on Facebook and just various forums. Well, anyway, that's it for the menu bar basics, and I hope you learned a lot from that. I know we kind of went through that pretty quickly, and that ends our features portion of our features, functionality, and fundamentals course, and we should be starting the second section, which is our functionality, where we do more deep dives. So come back and join us in the future.